The air buzzed with music and laughter. Not my scene, not anymore. But it was my nephew's 21st and family came first. He was practically bouncing off the walls, ecstatic to finally be legal. Me? I was content on the sidelines, nursing a beer, watching him celebrate. My life was routine. Wake up, work, gym, sleep, repeat. Excitement was a foreign concept, yet here I was at a house party surrounded by youthful exuberance. The bass throbbed, a stark contrast to the quiet hum of my usual evenings. It felt strange, out of place. Little did I know how prophetic that feeling would be. Hours melted away. The party started to thin out. My nephew, already 3 sheets to the wind, stumbled towards me, slurring gratitude for coming. I chuckled, patting his back. Time to head home. The drive back was uneventful. Streetlights blurred into streaks of yellow and black. A calmness settled over me, back to normalcy. I pulled into my driveway, a sense of relief washing over me. But as I stepped out of the car, a chilling sight stopped me dead in my tracks. Red and blue lights pulsed, painting the night sky with an eerie glow. My front yard, usually quiet and serene, was swarming with police officers. Their faces were grim, their movements urgent. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. What was going on? 2 officers approached me, their expressions unreadable. "Sir, we need you to step back." Their words were sharp, edged with suspicion. I raised my hands, confusion swirling in my mind. What's happened? "Is everything all right?" I stammered, my voice trembling. Their eyes darted towards my house, their silence speaking volumes. I followed their gaze, my heart pounding against my ribs. The front door was ajar, a dark, gaping maw. A sense of foreboding washed over me. "Sir, there's been an incident. We need you to stay here." Their words were clipped, professional, but the look in their eyes sent a shiver down my spine. It was then that I noticed it, a splash of crimson on the porch steps, stark against the white concrete. Time seemed to grind to a halt. Every pulse of the siren, every whispered word from the officers amplified the fear that was slowly constricting my chest. A young woman, her face contorted in terror, was led out of my house, her arm wrapped in a blood-soaked bandage. A detective, his face etched with years of hardened experience, approached me. "Do you know this woman, sir?" he asked, his voice devoid of emotion. I shook my head, my throat suddenly dry. The woman looked at me then, her eyes wide with a mixture of pain and something else. Accusation. "That's him! He did this!" Her voice, shrill and shaky, cut through the night. I stared at her, my mind reeling. It was like watching a scene unfold from a nightmare, a cruel joke with me as the punchline. "No, you have it wrong, I just got here." My words were lost in the cacophony of sirens and shouted orders. The detective's eyes narrowed. "Bring him in," he commanded, his voice cold, resolute. Resistance was futile. I was pushed towards a waiting patrol car, the woman's terrified gaze burning into my back. As the door slammed shut, I felt a part of me break. I was trapped, caught in a web of circumstances I couldn't comprehend. The interrogation room was cold, sterile. The harsh fluorescent lights felt like they were boring into my skull. Hours bled into each other as I repeated my story, my pleas of innocence falling on deaf ears. They laid out their evidence. I was the only one at the scene. The victim identified me, and they found a bloody knife in my kitchen sink. Each piece of evidence felt like a nail hammered into the coffin of my freedom, but it was all wrong. I hadn't seen that woman before in my life. The knife? I'd used it to chop vegetables for dinner, for God's sake. My lawyer, a public defender assigned to my case, seemed disinterested. His eyes glazed over as I spoke. Days turned into weeks. Bail was denied. The news painted me as a monster, a predator. My face, plastered across newspapers and television screens, became synonymous with a crime I didn't commit. The weight of the accusation, the sheer injustice of it all was suffocating. My life, my routine, my future, all ripped away in one fell swoop, all because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time.